Okay. Very excited about the game last week. Obviously, a great opportunity to play in some weather like that. That was a lot of fun. Kids had a lot of a good time. Coaches had a good time. I don't think the wives had a very good time sitting in it, but we loved every minute of it. So good to get that one under our belt. Got a lot of evaluations. I think that was probably the biggest positives coming out of last week. Is the amount of evaluations that we got at every position. Pretty much everybody that or I should say pretty much everybody that we dressed that we wanted to play got reps, got snaps, most of which got legitimate snaps. So we were able to get those guys on film and make an evaluation moving forward into this week, which obviously this week Central Arkansas, number 15th ranked team in the country, coming in here will be a really, really good challenge, one that this team's up for. They're excited about. Started off the work week great this morning. Me and Coach Adams rode around in the rain checking some classes, and we were 100% there. So if that's any indication to how this practice is going to go this afternoon, then should be a good day. Obviously, we'll have some beautiful weather. Should be a really, really good environment come Saturday, and we're really looking forward to it.
You said after the game last week there were still some things you all needed to clean up. What are those things?
Yeah, just personnel things, getting on the field, off the field. We had, and it was later in the game. It's tough in games like that. The one thing that you worry about in games like that is if you get to a certain point where the game kind of gets out of hand and you're trying to get some people off the field, some of your starters, you're trying to get them off the field, but you never make those substitutions in special teams because it's just when you get to that point, it's very hard to figure out who you have left sometimes. When you're taking guys off of offense and defense, you're trying to get them off of special teams. Well, you're only, two deep, and sometimes not even two deep on special teams at every position. A lot of times you have swing guys and things of that nature. So, it happened there at the end of the game on a punt return right there where we ran 12 off or 12 on the field. And it's because we had somebody that had been taken off on either offense or defense. They thought that they were still on special teams. The other guy heard that guy was off of his offense and defensive reps, so then he just figured that he assumed that he was on the special teams in place of him right there. And so we just got to clean up some communication of how we do things in those certain situations. And then, obviously getting lined up offensively, some efficiency things, just how fast we get lined up, how fast we make some calls, how fast we find what backer we're working to, what backer we're scooping defensively, getting aligned, making our alignments, making our adjustments, finding our strengths and things of that nature. So just the whole gamut, there's always things that you can work on.
How would you evaluate this?
Yeah, I thought he did a tremendous job. He did exactly what we've kind of said that he's been doing through camp. He was very efficient in his work. He had one little hiccup right there that he knew as soon as he threw it, he come over the sideline, and it was kind of one of those that you look at him and go, give him the really, and he looks at you and goes, yeah, really, that was dumb. I apologize. He handles the ball very well. He distributes the ball very well. Like I said, usually when you call a play and you think that he's looking at A, he's going to look at A. He's not going to look at B. And if he does look at B, then a lot of times he had a reason for it. The best thing about him, obviously, is he has game day experience. He has college game day experience. So, the lights and the weather and all of those different things didn't affect him. He just kind of went out there and did exactly what he does in practice. So that was good to see. Pinnock, man, I thought he did a tremendous job. We're kind of running back by committee, which we're going to continue to be running back by committee. But obviously, I've been very high on DJ Pinnock this whole camp. Very physical runner, especially when you take into consideration he is just a freshman, but very tough kid. Obviously, the big thing that we have to watch out for is we have to continue to distribute those reps among the three backs, DJ Pinnock and Nick Collins, and then letting Nolan Nichols get in there and rumble down the field a little bit and get some tough yardage just so we can keep those hits off of one person, because that's my fear with DJ Pinnock being a freshman is he can't go in there and just take all of the beating and all of the abuse, because an 18-year-old or 17-year-old's body will start to deteriorate pretty quickly at this level if you do that.
We know Central Arkansas brings big linemen on both sides.
Yeah.
Looking at their offensive line, do you think the size and big they are could benefit somebody like Kenny Wooten, who spoke about coming around the edge?
I hope so. We got to find all of the benefits we can with that type of size. You know, I mean, they're gonna, you know, they're gonna look the part when they walk out on the field. They're gonna look the part. You know, they're on both sides of the ball, especially on their line of scrimmages. They're very big. Probably the thing that I'm most impressed with right now is how big their skill guys are. They're very tall, very long in their skill guys. At linebacker, they're really big at linebacker. They're all 200 plus, 6 foot plus. So they do a really good job, man. They do a really good job recruiting and getting players in there. Very sound in their schemes. They're 15th in the country for a reason, and you know, and it'll be a great task, one that we're ready for. We had a great team meeting yesterday on the day off. What I do is I let each coach individually, each week, all of them are signed to a week, and they get to kind of, we call it a scouting report. It's not a scouting report. It's a kind of a thought of the week moving forward. And Coach Park did it, our D-line coach did it this week, did a tremendous job with our team getting those guys ready and focused for the challenge at hand. So I think that, you know, I think this team will be ready. They're not going to be a team. This is not a team that's going to be intimidated by anybody by any means. So they're going to go out there and we'll be ready to throw our punches.
Coach, a little bit on their nose guard, taking on Milligan, 6'1", 360, kind of like a little small truck in the middle there.
Yeah.
Probably as big a guy as you're going to see, and he's pretty good too.
Yeah, he is. He moves extremely well to be that size. You know, usually guys who are 360 pounds, they can't even get in a stance, and you're not really that worried about him. This guy can. He can move around, has good lateral movement to be that big. But obviously, you know, the thing about him is we've got to attack him at different angles and try to get some angles on him. With the rest of that defensive front, we've got to create some angles so that we can get some movement, create some eye candy and some smoke and mirrors, try to make them run a little bit so that they can get tired, especially a guy like him. Obviously, we're going to try to make him run side to side a little bit so that we can kind of get his hands on his hips. Because a guy that size, that's the only chance you got. If you keep him fresh where he can just two-gap you and bull rush you, you're going to have a long night.
Seemed like from the game against Kansas State that they employed short passing game. They didn't hit much down the field. Was that more of a function of the kind of team that they were going up against in Kansas State, or is that just the way they played?
Yeah, you know, that's a good question. That's the tricky part about those games, and it's going to be equally tricky for them because they don't really know what they're going to get out of us because of the team that we played. You know, you don't ever know if a team is just holding back in games like that because they don't want to show a whole bunch, because at the end of the day it doesn't really matter. You know, they may have just been trying to get out of there healthy and get on to their conference schedules and their FCS opponents and things like that. You don't know if maybe that head coach feels like going into those games he's going to throw the kitchen sink at a team like that and try to be one of the 4 that beats an FBS opponent. So that's what makes it tricky to evaluate them when you watch that tape. You know, I know when you put their games that we have on them last year together with last week's game, that gives you a little bit better idea of what they're going to do because you know, all of those coaches are back. Most all of those coaches are back. I don't think there's going to be a lot of changes schematically or anything like that. So we watched last week's game. Obviously, you know, we want to see if there's anything that has changed, especially personnel-wise. That was our biggest. That's the biggest difference year to year is personnel. But it looks like for the most part that they're pretty much schematically the same as they were, you know, last year. All the tapes that we have on them last year.
Gabriel Vicente's first football game
Ever.
How did this even happen? I understand Sappington's been a little under the weather injury-wise. How did this all come to be?
Jake Johnson, our special teams coordinator, did a tremendous job. Apparently he's got friends in low places that know people, and we got into a situation where when our guys showed up there at the end of July, right there before, you know, right there at camp, Sappington came to us and said, hey, by the way, I got a little groin injury and I haven't kicked since May the 14th or something like that. And to which we replied, man, we've talked to you on the phone over the summer for like 15, 16 times, and you've never said anything about a groin injury. This is a fine time to have a groin injury. So we went into scramble mode, and Coach Johnson called some of his coaches and some of his underground recruiting buddies and things like that, and this kid's name came up. He's a soccer player, has a big leg, but he literally knows nothing now. I mean, at practice, we sometimes just take things for granted, and we forgot to tell him to put the tee. We were working kickoff, and we forgot to tell him that you kick off from the 35-yard line, and we didn't notice until we started watching tape from that practice. He kicked it off from the 30 because he knows nothing about football now. I mean, he doesn't know. We had to teach him, why you onside kick it, what an onside kick is, what you're trying to do. First time we ever taught him that, he just drilled one right to the sideline and looks at us like something like that, and we're like, no, that's not it. So, it's been a learning curve, but obviously you can see he's got a lot of ability. He's got a big leg, and even more so, I like his attitude. He's not one of those kickers that's a head case. You can get out. I push him. When we work PAT, I'll literally physically push him so that he gets off balance and throw water on him. And that stuff doesn't faze him. So he's pretty good.
So now you have 2 kickers.
Yep, now we have 2, which makes for a really good competition. Sap's got a huge leg. We call him the big stick. He's a guy that kickoff, he's probably a little bit better than Gabe as far as placing the ball and putting it back there deep. Gabe is a lot faster on PATs. So right now they kind of split those reps, but they're pretty much interchangeable. The other night we interchanged. I don't even know if anybody noticed, but we interchanged them and let Gabe kick a little bit and let him kick field goals a little bit and vice versa. So it'd be interesting to see how it plays out.
Plan to use both for the rest of the season?
I don't know. We'll just see. We'll just kind of see, see how, especially this week, this team coming in, see if it changes their mindset at all. I don't know. Maybe they'll go out there and it won't bother them at all. That's my hope, but we'll see if it bothers one of them, if he gets a little nervous or something.
Hayden Hildebrand, quarterback at Central Arkansas, really high percentage thrower. How important will it be to get pressure on him?
It's always important to get pressure on the quarterback. That's one of the biggest things we want to do. Not necessarily. Obviously, we love sacking the quarterback, but it's not necessarily about sacking the quarterback. It's about putting hits on the quarterback, trying to get him uncomfortable. We did a good job of that the other night. Obviously, that's one of the most, other than turnovers, that's one of the most important things we can do on defense is try to put hits on that quarterback. Every time he hands the ball off, every time he throws it, if we don't get to him before he lets the ball go, we need to be back there close to him and trying to put hits on him so that we can make him as uncomfortable as possible. Yes, sir. For us, obviously, Kenny Wooten, he was spectacular. I tell you, Bishop Woods played really good on that front line. I thought he was very active. And then, we had Jason Johnson, our transfer from Western Kentucky. That was literally the first play he's played in a Murray State jersey. He goes out there and intercepts it. You had Dylan Boone came up with an interception. DeMontre Wade came up with an interception. Trying to think. Black, Marquez Sanford, he had the big hit of the night on the ball carrier. I thought he did a really, really good job. So I thought just overall I was really, really impressed with our defensive team effort. I think we only gave up 159 total yards. And this day and age, man, with offenses as much eye candy as you see in different and RPOs and things like that, to hold somebody under 200 yards these days, that's pretty incredible, and really and truly to hold them scoreless, until we had the muff punt there at the end, which again was kind of a personnel substitution. It was my fault, but until we had that, to hold a team scoreless, that's tough to do anymore in college football. So just very, very encouraged by the way they played as a team, because we've been talking about, that's where we're the oldest right now. We have all most of our experiences on the defensive side of the ball. And we're really going to try to lean on those guys a little bit this year.
And a little bit on their running back, Carlos Wagman, over 100 yards against Kansas State. What type of runner is he?
Yeah, it's again, when you watch him against Kansas State, it's hard to tell. I think he's a pretty fast guy. I think he's got some. I think he has the ability to be a big play running back right there. He's also a very physical running back. That's what they're going to do. Chris Boone, our defensive coordinator, knows these guys, knows the coaching staff pretty well. As a matter of fact, I think he worked with Coach Campbell, at one time, and they are a physical bunch. I mean, Boone kind of joked. He said, man, you think I like board drills and things like that. He said, these dudes, they live for it. Now, they're going to be a physical bunch, both offensively and defensively. And I think that's going to be, you know, I think that's going to be the telltale sign is whether or not we can play with that physicality, whether or not we'll throw the punches back. You know, if we can block their punches and throw some of our own, and let them know that this is going to be a physical football game. That's what we're prepared to do. Is we're prepared to play a physical football game. We're prepared to go through a physical week of practice within the guidelines that the NCAA puts on you right now. And I think it's going to be a slobber knocker type game. I hope that it's going to be. It would be a great gauge to see where we're at as a football program.